Howdy Simmers, I'm the TheSimmingKoalaa and welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a good day. Today I have a speed build for you. Before I get into actually talking about the build, I do want to apologize for there not being a lot of content in the last few weeks. If you don't follow me on any of my social media and you're not really paying attention to my YouTube community tab, which is fine because I really don't post on it that often, you've probably missed it, but I got really sick for a little bit. I spent like an entire week being sick, and then I went to the doctor, and I spent the next week in recovery on a few medications that they prescribed to me. It was not fun. I feel a lot better now, and yeah, but like my sickness was so bad. I actually stopped doing like any content creation stuff altogether. I did not record. I did not stream on Twitch. It was just awful. I think it was probably worse than COVID. And oh man, I don't even know what it was that I had, but it was not fun. Um, but yeah, I am completely healthy again, and other than a cough, everything is gone. So I am about 99% healthy. So yeah. Actually, speaking of Twitch, I built this on my Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/TheSimmingKoalaa if you want to come hang with us. It is an 18 plus channel, so if you are not 18, I don't recommend going onto my Twitch page. I say a lot of bad words. I'm sorry, I'm an adult. It's what I do. I try to keep my channel family friendly, but Twitch is another story. But yeah, I built this on Twitch. This is a house-turned-museum that I built in Forgotten Hollow, which is the world that came with vampires. And I don't know, it very much fit kind of the theme of what this pack was, or what the build was. Because this particular build, this house-turned-museum, belonged to an occult couple. It was a vampire and spellcaster couple that used to live here. And I actually wrote out the lore for this build back in October, but I didn't build it until like late November, and now I'm posting it in December after getting sick for 2 weeks. I know this is very much not a festive build, and I'm sorry for that. I do have plans to get one out before Christmas. Whether or not that's going to happen, I have no clue. But I actually have the lore for you guys here, and I'll go ahead and read this to you. I wrote it down. So, this house, now museum, once homed a powerful spellcaster and her vampire lover. The vampire wanted nothing more than to be with her forever, but he knew if she stayed a spellcaster, she would one day die. So he turned her, and as one cannot be both vampire and spellcaster, she lost her powers. For a while they lived happily in their afterlives together, but eventually the former spellcaster grew to hate what she had become, so she left. Her lover searched for her night after night. Time passed, but eventually, he found her body, freshly staked. So he waited for morning to come, and when it did, he welcomed death. So it's kind of a sad story, but I mean, it worked. I was really excited actually to build this, but also dreading it because I don't really build community lots at all. Like, I very rarely build anything in general, but when I do, I usually build like normal family homes. I don't typically build community lots. I've built a few in the past. I've built a restaurant. I have built a like kitchenware store. Um, but I mean, really, I don't do community lots. So this was different and interesting, but at the same time, it was kind of up my alley anyway, because while this is a museum, this is a house turned museum. So people did once live here. This once was a house. So for the most part, I was just building a house and adding in some extra things to give it that museum feel, turning it into a museum lot type. And no, really, not that difficult. I think the hardest part about this really was trying to make it look like an older house. Um, because I am so bad working with specific styles and specific like time period based stuff. But I tried to focus a lot on using stuff from vampires and Realm of Magic. Vampires specifically more so for like the old-timey kind of stuff and like some of the vampire-ish creepy looking things, and Realm of Magic because we do have a spellcaster living here or who did live here. And I kind of wanted that element of the magical feeling to be part of this. So yeah, I think it turned out okay. Um, the layout that I had in mind didn't really end up happening. And of course, there's the problem of round walls that I faced. Because as we know, round walls are not the most functional. They are very, very glitchy and very hard to work with. But I did my best. I truly, truly did. Um, but yeah, this house ended up being, or house turned museum, I guess, ended up being a kind of two-bedroom house. Originally, I was going to turn one of the rooms into kind of an office space, and I'll show you when we get into the one that was. But yeah, I'm actually kind of okay with how it turned out in the long run. It wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but I mean, it works, and I don't think it came out as bad as it possibly could have. Yeah. We are getting into the furnishing now, though. So we started off with the kitchen, which this is a big kitchen. I think this is the biggest kitchen I have ever made. It's the first time I put in two ovens in any build. I don't usually do. I was debating between the vampires oven and the realm of magic oven because, like I said, I really wanted to focus on using vampires and realm of magic stuff. So yeah, in the end, I went with the vampires one just because it looked a little bit more old fashioned and I don't know. I just felt like it fit the vibe a little bit more. I did use the realm of magic counters though, which now that I'm looking at it with the vampires ovens, really, they just look so out of place. It does not really work. I did try to clutter up the kitchen as much as I could with like some old timey kind of things. So we have like a tea set. We have a few boxes laying around that just are kind of abandoned, and I don't know what's in them. Probably something weird. But I don't know. I did really look for kind of the weirder things to put in here because it's an occult museum. So I imagine that vampires and spellcasters would have some really weird things in their house, and yeah. I also did something I never do, which is I used move objects to put a like tea kettle thing on the stove of the oven. I don't usually go into like details like that. I usually just like set it on the side. But I guess I can say I put a little bit more effort um into this particular. So yeah, I'm yeah. Oh gosh, looking back at this, I'm remembering the struggle of trying to put everything onto these counters in the place I want them to. Move objects is handy, but sometimes certain objects are stubborn when it comes to placements, especially with counters because everything kind of snaps to them. Kind of annoying. Also, I know the fence kind of looks weird with the placement. I would probably just like fence off the whole room if I could, but at the same time, like the kitchen goes so far down that I want people to actually be able to see it. And since it's The Sims, like with the rope in the way, it counts as a fence. They're not going to be able to touch anything. The fence is going to be the way. They can't actually like do anything. So I thought it was fine. It's The Sims, not real life. They're not going to cause any harm to any of the things in there. But you may notice that I put down one of these like book stand things from vampires. I actually put those around the house a lot, like literally outside of every area that I have fenced off with that rope because it's a museum and I figured, you'd have these stands to kind of learn more about each area of the house or like each piece that's in the museum. So that was a little detail that I ended up adding. You can see I have this like fireplace from Realm of Magic. I was very much again debating between the vampires one and the realm of magic one for which one I was going to use. I decided to go with the vampires one for the living room area because that's kind of like the main space. We do have kind of the secret magic-y ocean area for the spellcaster upstairs that no one can actually access because it's completely fenced off and away from people. Um, so that's a thing. But I did end up putting the Realm of Magic one up there. I thought it would be kind of a nice fit. Um, and yeah, I didn't do like anything super colorful, I feel, with the downstairs. Like it's a lot of neutral colors. There's a lot of beige in the living room itself. And I don't know why I did that. I just feel like usually with old timey kind of stuff, there's never that much color, I feel, especially if you're looking at like things from like the 1800s maybe or so. I wasn't imagining it was like taking place in like the 80s or something. It's not going to be a time period that's like super colorful and super vibrant. So it's a lot of just kind of neutral colors. It's a bit boring actually, but I mean, isn't that kind of what museums are? It's a lot of old stuff, and I know not everyone is a big history person, and so it can be very, very boring just kind of walking around looking at old things that you may not end up caring about. Yeah. So I did use the same curtains throughout the house, but I put them in different colors, and I don't know if that was a good idea or a bad idea, but that's how it ended up being. I don't know what to tell you. My decision making when it came to this particular build is a little bit weird, but I did my best. I'm putting lights kind of all around the area. I very rarely use wall lights, I think, but I don't know. Something about this build in particular, I didn't want to put like a million ceiling lights or anything, and I do put a lot of them around anyway, but like, I don't know. Wall lights are a very big thing in like the old times. I guess they're called sconces, but I always call them wall lights. But they're a very big thing in kind of the olden days, and so I really wanted to bring that out, especially in the more like fancier looking. In here is kind of my idea of a garden space for the spellcaster. This is where she would grow like herbs and weird flowers and stuff, and this is very much like her kind of herbal space. I don't know what to call it. Um, but yeah, I that's what I decided to do with this part of the build. I don't think I really like I don't know. I feel like I did a good job with it. I don't know if I could have gone more all out with it. Uh, it was difficult for sure because, it's the round walls. They're weird. It's kind of hard to place things, but I managed somehow. Upstairs it gets a little bit more tricky. I think I put a violin down that I just left it where it ended up being because I was not going to be able to grab it again. Um, but yeah. So this fence stuff is really tricky because I don't use fences indoors usually, and so I was trying to figure out how to actually fence off like some of these areas. The dining room itself is very, very complicated, and you're gonna see me struggle with it a little bit. But I was very much trying to make this layout work with it like right in the middle of the room. But I just felt like there was no walking path whatsoever with how close it was to the other areas. And so you see me trying to like move it into other spaces, trying to just figure out where to actually put this thing. And I end up putting it kind of in this nook between the bathroom and the downstairs area. And I think that actually worked out okay. You may also notice that I am putting archways down in like every space where there should be doors. And that is because I imagine if it's a museum, they've probably taken the doors off of, the stuff so that way people could just like walk through the rooms and see everything. Like, I don't know. I imagine that's how it would be if you went to a house and were like getting a tour of it if it's like a really old thing. I don't know. It's just kind of my idea of it. Also, I know the house looks very yellow right now because of the lighting. When I give you the tour, I promise I have fixed it, so it is all like white lighting. It is not this very ugly shade of yellow lighting everywhere. I did fix it. This room in particular, this is the one that I was originally going to turn into an office space, but I figured, what purpose really would a vampire or spellcaster have for like an office? Like, why would they need a computer, especially in the time period that I have like in my head? They would not have a computer. They don't even have a TV. Like, this is not a place where they have really any technology. But I decided to make this into like kind of a nursery space, which is really depressing actually when you think about it, because the way I put this when I was talking about it on stream was like the baby that never was. Um, because, the in the lore, the spellcaster who then gets turned into a vampire gets found with a stake in her body. It's like it's a very depressing thing when you think about it, but it is what it is. I did add that little koala chair for the toddlers because I'm the SimmingKoalaa, any chance I get to add anything koala anywhere, I'm going to take it. Um, but yeah, I really did not know what to do with like the landing space on this floor, so I don't think I ended up really doing anything with it. I do put some stuff into that back area with the rounded walls, but other than that, I really don't do anything with the landing. Working on the bathroom now. I kept, I think, everything the same. This bathroom obviously has an actual bath and shower combo, whereas the downstairs one is just a toilet and the sink. So, in museums, the at least in the museum lot type, it says you have to have a bathroom. And so I kind of had my workaround with this because while there are bathrooms in this house, you can't actually use them because they're fenced off. Um, so it's kind of my like cheaty way of actually making this qualify as a museum without giving people access to the bathrooms. But this is what I imagined to be the spellcaster's room prior to her being turned into a vampire, and maybe even after for a little bit, because downstairs I only end up putting one coffin. But I imagine even after the spellcaster turns into a vampire, she probably still sleeps up in her room. And I love that swatch of the bed. I think the like stained glass tiling on the top of it, that particular swatch is absolutely gorgeous. It's probably my favorite on that entire bed. And that's saying something because like a lot of the stuff on there is really nice. I'm also not like a big fan of that bed in general. In general though. Sorry, I am talking really fast and my speaking is just all over the place. I did struggle with trying to find plants to put in this room though, because I didn't feel like any really fit the style I was going for. A lot of them looked a lot more modern, and I just, I don't know. I really was not trying to go for a modern feel, I guess. Um, yeah, I did put a crystal ball down from paranormal stuff because I thought that it would maybe fit. I don't remember if I actually did anything with the lot traits. I don't remember if I made this haunted at all. But if you add it into your game and you want to make it haunted, go for it. I mean, I feel like this would definitely be a good place to have the haunted trait on. Putting that fence down, by the way, made the roofs very annoying. So I tried to cover it up with this little couch and plant, and I did okay for the most part. I don't think it's super noticeable, but it was super annoying to try to deal with. Eventually, I was just, nope, I'm just gonna cover it. Yeah. I also, in this room, I put the telescope in there because, a big part about spellcasters or like witchcraft in general, which what I guess spellcastery is slightly based off of, but also probably more along the lines of Harry Potter. Um, but in like normal witchcraft kind of stuff, astrology does usually play a big part in it. And so I figured the telescope would be good for like looking at the stars and doing some stargazing kind of stuff and maybe looking for like constellations and the zodiac and the stars or whatever. I don't know. It was just an idea, and really I feel like that was the best place for it. Up here is where the potions area is for the spellcaster. I did try to decorate it as best I could. I feel like it's a tight fit with the cauldron though. um, the final thing I did was actually putting cracks and stuff around the house and trying to make it look a little bit more old-timey. But before that, I was working on the vampire area, so I have a little coffin down here, a dresser. Um, Kind of funny, I put a mirror down here because vampires in the game don't even have a reflection. It's a nice detail, but there's really no need for it. It's very unnecessary. Um, I did add this vampire's chair into the corner, some artwork on the walls. I got this tapestry. I also ended up adding curtains into the room to give it that feel of having windows, even though it is the basement and there are no windows down here. I think it's a nice touch. It definitely makes the room feel a little bit more, I don't know, lively, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I did put two organs into this house, I realized. There's one down here, and then there's the one that is upstairs. Which I guess is fine. You can have someone playing the organ maybe down here, or if they're upstairs, they can play it while someone's painting. I don't really know. I did go ahead and change it to the museum lot here though, and got all the requirements that were needed to actually make this a functioning museum, which the requirements on it are kind of weird because you only need like maybe 10 pieces of art or so, and just like a couple of sculptures here and there. It really is like the bare minimum to make a museum, which I feel like it would require a lot more to make a proper museum. I don't think I've ever been to a very small museum in my life that had like absolutely nothing. Usually museums are like completely filled. Uh, but the Sims requirements say you can have as little as you want and we'll still count it. So, landscaping, as we know, I'm not very good at landscaping, so I just have a little bit around, a few trees, some dead bushes, and some terrain paint. Really, that is it. Like, I've seen some people before make like full on paintings out of terrain paint, and it's just amazing to see. And I have no clue how they do it because I can't even do something as basic as like normal landscaping. Like, how do they do that? I genuinely have no clue. We are getting around to adding all of the cracks and scratches and like holes and stuff to the build. Anything that makes it look old and run down, basically. And I think for the majority of them, I do use the stuff that came from vampires. I maybe used a few of them from or used a few of them from vampires. I just said that I used them from vampires. I probably used a few from werewolves. I don't entirely remember. Um, but yeah, I'm going around basically every room adding like spider webs and some like kind of wear and tear on the walls and yeah. This door that I actually have on the garden space, I really wish they had made like an archway version of it. So basically like that big piece that surrounds it just without the door. Uh but alas, they did not, so it's fine. Um the tower in particular, the rounded rooms, I really wanted to make it look like it was going to fall apart at any moment. And so I did try to add a lot of cracks into this particular part of the build. And I think I succeeded. It probably could have used a little bit more crackage. But I didn't also like I didn't want to overdo it. So yeah, but I think I put scratches and like wear and tear basically on every single wall. I don't think a single wall went untouched in terms of that. So yeah, I don't know. If you think I'm not good at building in general, like I don't build houses that usually look run down either. So, I don't know. This really was a challenge for me when it came to building. Not just because it was a community lot, but trying to make it look like it had been old and abandoned. It's really not my area of expertise. So, yeah. I did add some like kind of last minute wall stuff as well to this area in particular. I just felt like it was in need of a little bit more, so I put down a tapestry on that one area. And we are finishing off all of the cracks and stuff, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you the full tour now. So, yay. Okay, so I have loaded into the lot here, and since this is a museum, there's already a few Sims out here. But we are gonna go into the house very, very slowly. And I keep calling it a house. It's a house turned museum. But we're gonna go in slowly and quietly, somewhat. We're not going to touch anything because when you're in a museum, you're not supposed to touch anything. But we have the little information stand over here talking about the living room. I added in these statues from vampires. We have this like woman in this corner and a gargoyle on the other. I don't know. It was unique. I thought it would be interesting. But we come through here and we have the kitchen, which, as I said, looking at the Realm of Magic counters with the vampires' ovens, it looks a little strange. And I just have some stuff kind of around on the counters. We have a little fruit bowl, which I guarantee that fruit would probably be very, very rotten if it were real. But it's not, I hope. I put a little, like, box in here and a pig statue. I don't know what's in that box, and I don't think I want to find out personally. Going through here, we have the dining room in this corner. I have no clue how anyone would get to that back seat, if it would even end up being used. I don't know. Um, and then going through here, this is the gardening space, and like I said, I did put some plants in here. At least I think I said it. I don't entirely remember anymore. But I did put some plants in here. So we have a few death flowers over here, and we have some herbs. So I think we have like sage, basil, maybe some like catnip in there too. I'm not entirely sure. We have the bee box and also the telescope, and just some like gardening type of clutter around. And yeah. This door, I really wish that they had made like an archway version of it with this like white piece over it, but without the doors. I think that would have been cool, but alas. And then moving on to the half bathroom here, I am realizing how high this toilet paper is. I don't think I'm going to change that though. I think that will be hilarious to see if you choose to download this. But yeah, little half bathroom, just a toilet and a sink. Fancy mirror though. And then over here, I imagine this bookshelf would be filled with like the spellcasters books, and so it's been kind of walled off to prevent people from reading that kind of stuff, but also it's like really old stuff, you shouldn't be touching it anyway. Going upstairs now. Alright, so like I said, I really did not do anything with this landing. It's got curtains and cobwebs, and basically it just looks very run down and out of shape. But the first room that we come upon is the nursery. So we got the Realm of Magic bassinet, the koala toddler chair. I put the little like Dracula bunny, or I guess it's not a bunny, but the Dracula stuffed animal in here. The bat, I guess. Some pictures on the walls. And yeah, I mean, it's a cute nursery. Too bad there is no baby for it. Going into the spellcaster's room, I really like this mirror that I used. It's from Jungle Adventure, I think. Vixella uses it a lot, and I think it's really, really pretty. But, I mean, this room in general is, like, fairly simple, I feel. The lamps that I have on the sides of the bed are maybe a little bit more on the, fancy side, but that's perfectly fine. And then we have the full bathroom in here. It's using the same appliances downstairs because continuity. We also added in that bath and shower combo that goes with the set. And yeah. And then over here we have the kind of like activity area. So there's an organ up here, chess table, easel, and the violin. And then we have a little seating area over here hiding the glitched out roof. And then upstairs is the potions room. Oop, let me go a little bit lower so that's, whoa. I was gonna say so it's not glitching as much, but we're in a round room. It is very glitchy. But yeah, we got some scratches on the wall and more wear and tear. I used a lot of the Realm of Magic stuff up here though, for sure, to kind of fit the vibe of this. So we have this fancy cauldron, we have a few like kind of storage things, and some paintings and stuff. But let's actually go to the basement now, which you can access by going into this little area next to the bathroom. All right, so you'd come down these stairs, and here is another one of these informational book stands. And this is the vampire area. So we have another organ down here, fancy clock, again, the mirror, some curtains that are hanging up. And right in the middle, we have the coffin, which the downstairs like basement area is entirely stone, so it's like a stone concrete tile. I imagine you would not want to like immediately step on, but I mean, if you're dead, the cold's not going to bother you much. But I did go ahead and put a rug under the coffin, so that way, like, if for whatever reason the vampire maybe is sensitive to the cold, they don't have to put their feet directly on a concrete tile when they get out of their coffin, because I'm just considerate like that. But yeah, that is the house turned museum, and yeah, I didn't do anything with like a backyard or anything. I really wanted to. I actually wanted to add like kind of a private cemetery in the back, but that didn't end up happening. So that is the house turned museum. I hope you enjoyed the build. I'm gonna put it on the gallery. It's gonna be called the Occult Lovers Museum, and you can find it under my gallery name, TheSimmingKoalaa, with 2 A's. I always have it in the description, so it should be easy for you guys to find. With that, I think I am gonna go. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel and make sure you have notifications on so you don't miss anything. Be sure to follow my socials. Links are below. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.